Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Tyler on Wafflin Around. This is my co-host Chris. Go ahead, Chris. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name's Chris Stamos. I played junior hockey with Tyler Sayuda last year. We were goalie partners on the Chicago Crush Elite Hockey Club. I'm now committed to Davenport University to play ACHA collegiate level hockey there, and I'm real excited about that. We'll get on that later. Go ahead and finish up your introduction, your credentials, and we'll get going.
Yeah, so as Chris was saying, I played with him this year in Chicago with the Chicago Crush. Growing up, I was always a house hockey goalie. So I played in the local youth organization around here in Cincy, and then I got to high school, played 2 years, freshman, sophomore at my high school, and then junior, senior, I played club in Northern Kentucky, and then I did have a previous year of experience with the Junior Cyclones of the USPHL Premier. Uh, so that wraps up my hockey story. I mean, Chris, you got some coaching experience. You want to tell me a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, I mean we had a similar background with hockey. Me playing house level hockey, then pretty average level high school hockey in the state of Illinois, Chicago area, and then took my efforts to tier 2 hockey. Finish out my second year 16s and my 2 years of eligibility at the 18 level. Went junior, as we know, and now committed to a college play. So just kind of moving up the ranks slowly but surely. We don't have the backgrounds, but we have the hard work to get things going. But yeah, now I'm coaching kind of full time here.
You're getting
I have
paid
been.
for it, right?
I'm getting paid, so it's
Professional,
basically
right?
basically a profession, if you want to call it that way. I've been goalie coaching since August, and it's been real fun working with 6, 7, 8 year olds all the way up to 18-year olds with high school teams and whatnot and midget programs. Um, but yeah, I really enjoy it.
That's good. First off, I just want to congratulate you on that commitment to Davenport because that's a huge achievement. I'm sure that was always been a goal of yours growing up is to play college hockey. So it's
Yeah,
a
I
big
mean,
deal.
you're going to a school and you're representing them on the ice and representing them in the classroom, and that's something any kid wishes they could do. I mean, not everything's going to be NCAA D1, NHL, best of the best. Um, but at the end of the day, playing college hockey is a serious commitment, and it's going to be a real fun time.
Yeah, and I mean, you're just playing the game you love, so you get to
Right.
extend your career a little more.
Absolutely can't complain with that. Not at all.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess now we could talk a little bit about like as a coach, what are some things you um, look forward to or really enjoy about coaching?
Um, I can kind of break that up into two segments, obviously. Like looking forward, when my playing career does end, whether that be after college, if I do play pro after then, or even if I'm just hitting the beer leagues and, you know, wrapping up my career directly after college. I am looking forward to continuing coaching. I feel like I've done a pretty good job with what I've done so far. But yeah, it's like almost another way to stay with the sport without playing it. You know what I mean?
For
You
sure.
could continue doing something you love with the sport that's not taking the toll on your body like playing, and it makes good money. So that would be something I'm interested in, something I look forward to. And what was the second part of your question there?
I think you got to both parts because I asked what you look forward to and what I guess what's interesting about coaching.
I think honestly the most interesting part, and I think the hardest part, and I have a lot of respect for coaches of more or less coaches and directors that run big programs with multiple teams at every age level, is just knowing the personalities you're dealing with. That's got to be the hardest thing. Like, honestly, you get a kid in the net for 3 to 5 minutes doing one drill, and you got to know how to talk to him about what he did wrong and what he did right. And then the next time another kid goes in the net, you've got to completely change how you're talking so that he can understand what he did right and he did wrong. And then, you're working with boys, girls, big kids, little kids, sometimes all at the same time. And it's just like knowing how to speak in a fashion that they understand and can understand the criticism without getting offended is it's pretty tough, but I
Yeah,
enjoy
I
it.
mean,
It's a fun process.
I was gonna
I
say
mean, you
that's
were
what you're
there,
looking forward to. So
right? I mean, you've been out there, you've seen it, you've helped me. So you definitely understand the sometimes how difficult it can be, but just how fun it is, seeing kids smile at the end of the day is one of the best feelings ever.
yeah, I can imagine. I'm no professional goalie coach, but obviously I know a little bit about playing goalie, so I can kind of translate that through. Um, so, like we were talking about earlier, we kind of went through the steps of the progression from youth hockey to college hockey. Um, let's talk about the steps to go from first starting, like day one, all the way up to the highest level of hockey you could play, right? The NHL. So go ahead and talk about the steps of progression for the hockey systems.
So for myself, or do you want like the standardized model that the USA,
So let's just
USA
go
hockey
generalize.
wants?
Generalize,
Generalized?
yeah,
So if you want any chance of going to the NHL based on statistics and, what most guys do now, you got to start hockey at a young age. You get in your ADM program while you're 4, 5, 6, 7, learning how to play hockey. Once you turn 7 or 8, you're then able to play mites. Playing mites is obviously, you're first learning how to play hockey. You're just starting to learn the basics. You probably don't know your position. Then you get to squirts. Squirts, you might start to know your position. You get the rules. You've played hockey. Um, coaches throwing forecheck, back check at you.
throwing
You're
the hockey
trying to
terms in
learn
there.
stuff. Right. You're starting to learn the game within the game. And
Yep,
then at this day and age, once you hit, you know, Pee Wee after squirt, but like you're already getting AAA looks, right? You're getting AAA looks. People want you to play or want you to start signing with them. They start throwing you money. Like nowadays, it's kind of crazy. You're 10, 11, 12, getting all these bribes, trying to sign all these papers. You're young. You don't know what you're doing with the sport yet. Your parents probably aren't too familiar with the financials of travel hockey yet because now it's starting to be offered to you. And at this level, you're starting to understand really deep the game within the game, or you should be. So then you're learning, the 1-2-2 or the 1-3-1 or stuff like that. You're learning how to box out a power play. You're learning how to play the diamond, umbrella on the power play, stuff like that. You're learning all that deeper game within the game stuff. And I think you can agree with me there. That's probably the age where kids really start to learn the game, the ins and the outs beyond just offsides icing.
for sure.
Bantam, I think, is probably one of the most important age groups in Canada. You start getting your OHL, WHL, and QMJHL looks. Um, in the States, that's when you start getting your junior looks. If you're going USHL, NAHL, you probably start getting those looks at that age. 15 only, that's a pretty common term in the States. I think it is in Canada as well. Huge development year. A lot of kids make or break season. That's just, you're playing, you're trying to show what you got. And, that's just that's like a big stepping stone in a lot of kids' careers. And then if you're playing double A or triple A at 17, 16, 17, 18, you're still looking to get scooped up by a decent junior hockey team. And then you play out your junior eligibility, try and get as many college offers as you can. Obviously, you want to pick the right one for you, and then college to the pro level. So that's how the USA kind of wants you to follow it. Me and you both, we are not at all at that standard.
No.
Um, hence why we're probably not playing NCAA Division One or in the USHL right now. Um, but what other factors do you think limit guys like me and you from playing in those premier levels?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? Because I was actually going to ask you about a couple of the barriers to entry, right? Some of those being like price for entry. Obviously, the gear costs so much. Like, it's just so hard to get into hockey if you just can't afford it. And then,
Exactly.
not to mention, like, you're always traveling to play hockey because there's usually only one organization in a city. So, I mean, you're always traveling, you're always paying for gas, you're always paying for hotels. So, I mean, that is obviously um, a deterrent to some people. And then obviously geographics can have a part in that also. So generally the southern states, a little warmer, won't have as much hockey from what I figured out. Like, I mean, I live in Cincy. We have 3 or 4 rinks in the city. But if you go up maybe an hour and a half to Columbus, you got at least 10 sheets of ice within, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes of each other. So hockey's definitely a lot more accessible up there. And I do know that they have some like fundraising programs to help children get into youth sports up there. So that would help children play hockey. So I just want to piggyback on you talking about the high school to college um, sports. I got a little bit of stats here for you. So we got for high school hockey players, we have 35,283. And of those, only 12.3% will end up playing college hockey, which you might be like, oh, that's not bad, right? But that's spread out through 2.5 divisions. I'll say 2.5 because there's a couple tier 2 or division 2 schools for NCAA, but there's only like 4 or 5. So if we look more in depth to those numbers, 4.8% are going to be playing Division 1, and then 6.8% are going to be playing Div 3, and then 0.6% are going to be playing NCAA D2. So it's definitely some interesting facts. I mean, when you break that down, it's kind of a hard number to comprehend, right? That's like 1,500 people playing NCAA D1 and probably about 2,000 playing Div 3. So, I mean, that alone is just, there's just not a lot of opportunity when it comes to college hockey because they're still trying to grow it. Um, and I mean, with 35,000, that's almost the lowest um, number for all of the high school participants on this list I'm looking at.
Does that
Uh,
list include high school age level or high school specific?
so it just says high school participants, but it has like baseball, basketball, cross country, football, cross,
Okay.
soccer, swimming.
So
Uh,
this is probably teams that are affiliated with a school.
for sure, yeah.
Okay.
It's easier to measure, I'd assume.
Right.
Uh,
So from this, do we think that high school hockey lacks some of the progression that maybe double A or triple A hockey in the States offers at that age level?
yeah, so I'm gonna talk out of my experience a little bit more here. So my freshman sophomore year, like I was saying, I played high school hockey for my school, and a couple of the limiting factors were uh, mandated by the Ohio Hockey Association, right? And some of those include like uh, you can't contact, like coaches can't skate with players before a certain time in the year. So anytime before that, you got to have your captain's practices, and I think that's just like one of the toughest things, right? Because you're not getting that development that you're looking for. You're kind of just going out there getting some reps in, and then I mean, you're not really getting any coaching. So I think there's definitely some improvements to be made in the high school hockey aspect, and I just think that there's definitely more we could do to increase those numbers to get them into the NC Div 3, Div 1 schools. So,
Definitely, definitely, I could agree with that there. I'm not too sure on that rule in Illinois. I don't think that's a thing, but even then, it's like at the high school level, I see a lot of, let's just put it in the way that a lot of the coaches coaching high school hockey in the state of Illinois are not good enough to be coaching programs at that age level.
mhm,
I'm not personally talking from experience. I've had some great coaches at that level. Um, but from teams we've played against, certain situations spark that an experienced coach would never, you know,
mhm.
let happen, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it. Some of the coaches they just don't have the background required to be
Right,
coaching these guys. So,
right,
I mean, they just can't connect to these guys on a level where they can understand what they're trying to be told. And then you also have to look at like how much do these coaches actually know about hockey, right?
right,
Some of them they could just be talking like, "Oh, well, maybe you should have done this," or it's something generic like they're not giving you actual feedback. It's something they've heard before and they're just regurgitating it. So,
right, right.
and I
I could
mean,
agree with that.
that's especially prevalent in the goalie world. I know a
Definitely.
lot of coaches they just don't understand all the intricacies of goaltending. Looks
Right.
easy, but it's not.
Exactly. And it's so easy to think one thing and it's completely wrong for someone, but completely right for another person.
For
Problem with the
sure,
position is it's not set in stone how you do it, right?
for
Like
sure,
in a forward as a forward, you cut wide and you shoot the puck hard, probably putting it in the net. As a goalie, you know, there's no set way to do something.
for sure. And
Um,
I mean, I always find myself looking at something else I could have done different on every play because there's
right,
just so much going on all the time, so much to process. Like, oh, well, maybe if I would have seen that guy over there or realized he's right handed or left handed, I would have been able to make that save. Like, there's just so much going on as a goalie. And I mean, it's so hard to coach because there's just so much going on.
yeah. And I mean, if you don't know the position, like a goalie knows the position, I feel like you have no say in what your goalie does, right? Leave that up to a guy that knows what he's talking about, first of all. Second of all, has played the position for more than a year, right? Like just hasn't dabbled in it and gave up on it.
Sorry about that weird cut. I don't have the Zoom Premium, so we had to start the meeting over. But here we go. Back to that third point Chris was talking about.
So, to reiterate, the third point was the goalie coach or somebody that's speaking to your goalie about goalie specific things should have played at a level beyond high school, right? At least I think so. If they played at a decent high school and just kind of gave up on the sport, but still kept that knowledge and kept up with the position, so their information stayed up to date, then I think they're credible. But when your head coach is trying to tell you how to play goalie and he's never played goalie before, or he's played goalie in the 70s and hasn't kept up with the position, I feel like there's a lot of confusion that can go on there. Because if the kid is working with a private goalie coach, he's probably hearing the complete opposite thing from the goalie coach, and then his head coach tells him the complete opposite thing from the goalie coach, and you got yourself a confused little kid.
Oh
And
yeah, for sure.
no little kid confused is a good situation at all.
Yeah, and I mean that's especially relevant at like the junior level, right? I mean, there's not that many goalie coaches. I mean, some programs have them and most don't. So, um, I was gonna say I know that USA Hockey does offer a course for goalie coaching, so they'll give you some of like the updated fundamentals for goalie coaching. And I think that should be a requirement if you do plan on doing goalie coaching. I mean, if you play, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you don't play, you might have to work for it a little bit, but I definitely think it's going to help you out, help you understand like what's going on in the goalie's head. And I want to say it talks about the mental aspect as well, and how like um, you stay calm, like deal with the situation. Like, oh, maybe you got scored on, you just lost the playoffs. Like, how to deal with those situations.
Right. And I think maybe even requiring a head coach to do so too. I mean, I think that'll make decision making a lot better, right? In the sense that, hey, he's not playing his best right now, but pulling him at this time in this situation might ruin his confidence. So maybe let's not do that. And then the coach can make better decisions based on what they learned about goalies and their mental side, their physical side of it, and maybe help the team win more games by just simply understanding the two most special players on the team. Like they're unlike any other player on the team. Not many people know how it feels to actually play goalie, and the people that have tried it, they say it's difficult. They ask me how I do it. They probably ask you how you do it. They laugh when they say, or when they suit up and realize that tracking something off the ground rather than out of an arm like baseball, everybody knows how to catch a baseball, right? Not everybody could track a hockey puck. So there's a lot of difference in the position from many other positions. And I just think if people were more educated around the position, then maybe goalies might be a little bit happier with their choice in positioning.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, being the only one out there, it gets a little stressful sometimes, or at least it
Definitely.
feels like you're the only one out there, right? Sometimes the spotlight's all on you, like, oh, why didn't you make that save? Well, maybe if you didn't get walked at the blue line and missed the hit at the red line, like we wouldn't be in this situation.
Right.
But I mean, I definitely think that's something that could be included in the coaching, the head coaching, like classes that you got to take. I think that'd be a great addition. By no means my USA Hockey like speaking for them or anything, but like if they did want to add that, I think it'd be a great idea.
Yeah, I would definitely support that. Um, Probably would have made some of my time playing the lower levels a little bit more enjoyable. Had a lot of times where I was just questioning my coach and I didn't get the answers. And I was like, well, why did I get pulled? I'll never know. But maybe if they read a handbook like that or understood why our position is the way it is, then they'd make a little bit different of a decision. Maybe they'd have more talks with us and kind of tell us what they were thinking in that moment, so on and so forth. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, I think there's definitely a need for that coaching class, right? Because I know like coaches that have been coaching for plenty of years, right? They coach how they were coached. And personally, as a player who's trying to develop, right, how they were coached is not how I want to be coached. I want to be coached and more like I want to know the explanation behind everything, right? I don't want to just be told to do something and not have a reason to do it. Because then I'm like,
Right.
well, why am I doing this?
Right.
So I mean, I just think it's the explanation is just as important as the thing you're doing. So
Right. The decision.
yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We've ran into some situations with that, um, personally and together as a group, um, which I'm sure everybody has. Like we were saying this whole time, goaltending, it is something special. It's not normal by any means, and yeah, if coaches understood it more, maybe then goalies would want to be goalies, and
Hmm.
more kids would want to get in the position and stick with the position. I feel like I have no stats to prove this, but I feel like more often than not, I see a lot of goalies quitting the sport before they reach junior or college hockey. I don't know
Yeah, at that
why. I
like at the
just
end of their high school years.
right. I don't know why, but I kind of see that as a trend with people I know, possibly. Um, I don't know how accurate that is. I don't know a million people. I can't take a massive survey, but out of the people I do know and played with and kids that were even better than me, like they're not taking the next steps forward, which is
Yeah, I mean,
interesting.
obviously there's a whole bunch of drop off, right? There's at least like 30,000 players that aren't continuing to play in high school, whether that's due to a lack of spots or whether it's just a burnout, right? Because I mean,
Right.
you can't tell me there's been times where you're just like, man, I'm not sure if I want to go to the rink today. Like sometimes it's tough, right? Like you're like I love hockey so much, but it's just not how it used to be. Like it's not as fun as I remember it.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely points like that in the season. We do live in a cold region of the United States, so maybe seasonal depression does have a little effect on that.
It's definitely
I'm a
possible
I'm a huge believer in seasonal depression. I think it's a thing. It's definitely a thing. But whatever. Maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe you're not playing your best. Going to the rink is always super difficult when you're struggling. Sometimes you hit these spots and these moments in time where you're like just overthinking everything. And sadly, it just does not help your situation at all on the ice. So, yeah, it definitely does get difficult coming to the rink sometimes. I feel like there's a little bit less pressure as a forward, as a skater. You can miss the net, you can fall, you can blow an edge, you can, mess up a drill completely and go unnoticed. But the second a goalie makes a mistake, there's pucks in your net, you look terrible. And sometimes that gets to be too much for a guy and doesn't want to show up to the rink. And that could be why a lot of kids get that burnout.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, going back to what you're talking about, like that goalie making a mistake, the forwards aren't having as much pressure put on them, right?
Right.
It's like what me and you always talk about, right? Like, for example, the more shots you take, naturally, the more saves you're going to make, right?
Right.
So the forwards and the defense have a lot more reps. So they're naturally going to make less mistakes because they have more reps. Whereas a goalie, you're only getting, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 reps a drill. So you get scored on 2 or 3 times. It's like, man, I hope nobody saw that. And then it's like,
Right.
oh no, I just let that last one in.
Your percentages aren't looking great there.
Right. And
Yeah,
it's
for
just,
sure.
I mean, that's always tough, right? Because in practice, you're really trying to hone in your skills, right? Whether that's with a goalie coach, without a goalie coach, you just really got to focus on the fundamentals, right? I love the saying. It's so I learned this one in high school. It's the acronym is KISS, right? It's keep it simple, sweet, right? I mean, keep it simple. Don't overthink it. Like it's just hockey. You're just doing what you got to do to put yourself in the position to make the next save. And I
Right.
mean, that's what you should always be doing is making sure you're in a position to make the next save.
Yeah. I mean, that's the most bare bones definition of a hockey goalie, I think. Being in a position to make a save. Works out, checks out to me, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about getting in position, right? How size helps with being in position.
Okay. Okay. This is a hot topic
It is a
in
bit of a hot topic.
especially in the NHL realm. Okay.
Speaking of, right?
So
We got go ahead, go ahead.
you go ahead. I think I know what you're gonna say here.
So we got this new Flyers goalie, right?
Here we go. Here's what I was gonna say.
Ivan, what's his last name?
Uh
Fedorov or
Fedotov,
something.
Fedotov,
Anyway, he's what, 6'8"?
6'8".
He's a
No
big
skates
dude.
on.
He's a big
Barefoot.
dude.
Barefoot. Big guy.
Um, he's not the best goalie, but he's massive, right?
Right.
He just covers so much of the net. Like you just got to be big to be good, is what most coaches will say, right? But then you have Saros for the Preds, and he's what, 5'10",
5'10". They list him
and
at 6 foot, and I think that's being super generous.
I'd argue he's one of the better goalies in all of the NHL.
At this point, he's been capable of proving it. Yeah. And then you got a guy like Shesterkin, been an NHL All-Star quite a few times. Best goalie in the league, was it 2 years ago? He's standing at 6'1".
6'1".
not your definition of a super tall goalie, you know. Um,
Yeah, a little
but
under average.
you do have, Connor Hellebuck. I think he's 6'3", 6'4", and
That's
he's the
more
best
along the
goalie in the
lines.
league right now. So,
Yeah,
you
and
know,
what
it
these guys do
really.
so go ahead, go ahead.
Go ahead.
What these guys do so well is they get themselves in a position to make the save, right? I
Yeah,
mean, the
absolutely.
little guys, they skate faster than the big guys, and that's how they're able to compete with these other guys. The big guys may look a little slower, but they're getting there just as fast because they're doing they're doing less work to get the same distance.
Right, and their reach, their body is just simply longer, right? So if they do stick out a glove or they do stick out a blocker, it's there before even the smallest guy at full extension can push at their highest speed,
Yeah, and
like
I mean,
there's just that advantage.
you can't coach size, but you can coach a goalie. So I mean, I think
Right.
that's what the Flyers are trying to do, right? Obviously, not the best goalie, but he's got the size. I think there's definitely potential for development there.
And his story is just incredible too.
Yeah,
I mean, going to jail. Well, not going to jail, but getting shipped off to patrol a border and then skipping a whole year of hockey because of it, coming back, putting up a little bit lesser numbers. I think he had a 921 before he went to the military. Went to the military for a season. This was all after he got drafted, by the way. Came back, had something in the 910s, the 900s, went back into his prime 920 numbers, and then now he's here. So that's kind of crazy, skipping a whole year of professional hockey,
and still being able to compete
still being able to compete now at the NHL, the best level in the world,
for sure.
undoubtedly.
Yeah, yeah. So
Undoubtedly.
I'm looking at his EP right now. He was drafted in 2015, so
Okay.
he's been in the Flyers system for a good what?
A minute.
Yeah, almost 10 years.
Yeah.
So
Was what I was saying correct though? I think it was.
um yeah, I'm looking. It says 2021, 2022, he played in the KHL and then the International Russian League. And then it has listed here, did not play the 22-23 season. So then it's got him for 23-24 in the KHL and the NHL. 2 games in the NHL, 850. I mean, it is what it
First
is,
two
right?
games,
Sure,
came in
there's a little bit of
relief.
nerves.
Came in relief there as well. So can't really can't really knock him too hard. You know,
Yeah.
didn't play hockey last year. Was
I mean, that
in a
alone, the
helicopter, I think. I think he was in a helicopter.
was he?
So
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with that story,
yeah.
so
So interesting.
oh yeah.
But he's still doing it.
Oh
So
yeah.
he's in the
Yeah, I
NHL.
mean, I hope to
And
be playing hockey for as long as possible, and if I had to take a couple years off to develop to play pro, maybe the FP, that'd be great.
or maybe go into a helicopter and protect the border.
And then all of a sudden, I'm just gross at hockey, and I go play straight in the NHL. Like that'd be sick.
That would be wicked, but I don't think that's how it works, sadly.
No, well,
Um,
not for me, but
yeah, but good for him.
yeah,
That's an incredible story.
for sure.
Um, Definitely could have been ruined by having to go serve and whatever. But no, kept trucking. Played pro after not playing, and now is playing the best pro hockey he's ever gonna play. So it's awesome.
Yeah, it is. Um, do you have any other points you want to talk on?
How much time are we at here?
I don't know. I don't have a little I don't have a timestamp, so
Should have set a timer. Um, Realistically, I'm not too sure. I mean, kind of hit all the topics we wanted to today, but
well, this one's been going for probably 15 minutes. So
okay. I think the last one we had going for 20 something.
yeah, probably. So we're right about good on time.
Okay.
Well, thanks for joining us on Wafflin Around. Again, I'm Tyler Sayuda. This is my
And
co-host.
I'm Chris Stamos.
Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you next week.